might have driven up to church today and saw a big semi truck.
Yeah.
And this is Sonny's truck.
Yeah, my name is really not Sonny, it's Raymond, but they only call me that when they're mad at me. I got my nickname from my CB handle, the Sunshine Pilot, because I don't like to drive in rain or snow. And I wound up living in Arizona. I'm on my second marriage. I got divorced from my first wife about 25, 30 years ago, something like that. We were Catholics, and I read the Bible on my own, just out of curiosity. I was interested in extraterrestrial life and that kind of thing, and occult, and I was just checking everything out. Actually, I was trying to find out if there was really a devil. That's what led me to the Bible. And somebody handed me a 50-cent copy of the New Testament. I'm talking about back when I'm like 25, 26 years old. And when I read that New Testament, I had a job working in an oil refinery where I worked at nighttime, just operating a boiler. I had 7 hours of time to myself to read so I could stay awake. So I started reading the Bible. And when I got it, I noticed that this book was written like 2,000 years ago, and it seemed to be talking about the day that we're living in now. So I said a prayer to God. I said, God, I don't know if I believe in you, if you even exist, but if you do, and if this is really your word, please don't ever let me forget it. And he never did. Now, I didn't live my life as a good Christian all those years. I made a mockery out of the whole thing, I suppose. Trying to witness to people in bars and stuff like that didn't seem to have too much good effect on anybody. And I tried to convince my family that they needed to read the Bible, but they wouldn't listen to me for almost 40 years, probably because I wasn't giving a good example. And then all of a sudden, about a year ago, last February, I was driving from Waco, Texas to some small town in Louisiana, 300 miles away. It was a Friday night, and heard this guy on the radio. His name was Michael Oxentinko, a preacher from Silver Spring, Maryland, and he's talking about Revelation and all the stuff that happened back in 1844 and those years back then, and all the stuff in Revelation that already took place and I thought we were still waiting for. And I said, well, I got to go check these people out. All I knew was they were Seventh-day Adventists. I've heard of them before. When I started reading the Bible, one of the other things I was reading, because I was trying to read everything I could find about the Bible, I was reading the Signs of the Times magazine, along with a few other magazines, like The Plain Truth by Herbert Armstrong, and The Watchtower by the Jehovah's Witnesses, and I was told that none of those magazines I need to stay away from because they're all fringe religions. So I kind of forgot about the Seventh-day Adventists, but I did remember the things that I learned when I started reading that stuff, especially about how the Catholic Church kept the Bible hidden away from everybody. Well, that night I decided I'm gonna check out and go to one of these churches. So I pushed it in my GPS. I programmed to find me a Seventh-day Adventist. There were none along my route. So I went to this barbecue joint and figured I'd park for the weekend. There was about an 80-acre lot there, room for trucks, but I was the only truck there. I pulled in. I figured, well, I'm going to do some research on the internet, find out about the Seventh-day Adventists. And maybe next week I'll go to one of their churches. So I programmed, Googled the Seventh-day Adventists, and I read about a woman called Ellen G. White and this book she wrote called The Great Controversy. And my wife calls me up the next morning, Saturday morning, or no, Sunday morning. I spent all day Saturday doing research on Ellen G. White and Seventh-day Adventists. Sunday morning, my wife calls me up and says, I want to find a new church. I'm tired of this Baptist church we're going to. I said, well, where do you want to go? She says, Seventh-day Adventist? Yeah, that's it. I said, how'd you hear about them? She says, I don't know, I just saw it on the sign. Looks like an interesting place. I said, okay, that's kind of weird, because I was just reading about them just now. And so I let that go. The next day, Sunday, another truck comes in, parks next to me. Now this is an 80-acre lot, I'm the only truck in there. So the truck pulls in right next to me, and the guy gets out of the truck, he's got preacher written on his door. And he's got a Christian t-shirt on, I got a Christian t-shirt on. He says, hey, I like your t-shirt. I said, yeah, I like yours too. We started talking about the Bible. And I said, yeah, it's a shame that the way the Catholic Church kept it hidden from all the people for all these years. That's got to be the biggest crime that's ever been committed against mankind in the history of the world. Don't you think? He says, yeah, I think you're right. He says, hey, I got a good book you might like to read.
The Great Controversy.
So he hands me this book called The Great Controversy.
That was God.
So that's four things that happened. Number one, I'm listening to this pastor on the radio, leading me to the Seventh-day Adventists. Number two, I do research on the internet and read all about Seventh-day Adventists and Ellen G. White. Number three, the next day another truck comes in and he's got a copy of the Great Controversy and he gives it to me. And then my wife says, hey, we need to go check out one of these churches. And she was also doing research on the internet from home, and she said, I heard this woman's a prophet. She says, what's a prophet? So I tried to explain what I could, and she said, well, we'll have to go check them out. I said, I'm going to do that next chance I get. Next, 5 days later, I was...
By the way, this truck driver that came up there, you know, first of all, think about the odds of that happening.
Exactly.
You know, of anyone even having a great controversy in their vehicles, probably 1 in a million. Maybe, maybe less or more than that. And then to have the only other vehicle pull up there on 80 acres and park next to him that has that, and the driver that had it had never read it.
Yeah, he never read the book.
And he wasn't a
And
Seventh-day
he gave me the book.
Adventist.
He gave me this book, and I looked at the cover. It
Yeah.
says Seventh Day. It says The Great Controversy. Here's the book exactly like the one he gave me. I said, "Wow, I've heard of that." Because the day before I was reading all about it, but I couldn't remember. You know, I just the name stuck to my head. I said, "Was this written by a woman named Ellen White?" He said, "I don't know." So I looked inside, I said, E.G. White, yeah, hey, that must be her. Wow. So the way I tell the story is, I would never heard of these people if this book hadn't fallen out of the sky and hit me in the head. Okay, that's how I normally start this testimony, that's how I describe it, and then I explain what really happened, but I did it backwards today, because I didn't get to... I did this without any time to practice. Anyway, the book had a great change in my life. And the next Saturday, I was in my first church, and I went to Sabbath school, and I told them how excited I was about finding this book. And one of the elders was in the Sabbath school class with me, and he said, would you mind getting in front of the church and telling the story you just told us? So I said, no, I wouldn't mind. So first thing he does is he goes up to the pulpit and says, I'd like to introduce you to somebody. And he calls me up, even before the preacher even showed up. I'm the first guy up there speaking. Well, afterwards there was a potluck dinner. And now keep in mind, I don't know anything about these people. Are they cult or what? And they're serving Kool-Aid at this potluck dinner. So I said, well, God, I'm going to take a chance on this Kool-Aid. I said, everything looks kosher to me from here where I stand. I think you're calling me to come here, so I'm going to trust you and drink this Kool-Aid. A week later, I was in Oklahoma, in the Panhandle, in a town called Guyman. I was on my way to Denver and Salt Lake City, and I found another church, and went there, and they were speaking other languages that I couldn't understand, and I didn't have the gift of speaking in tongues yet. I still don't. But they were Filipinos, and and people from Burma and all that, okay, I didn't understand the language, and there was like only 2 other white people in the whole place, but I went there and they led me to another room in the back which had some English speaking people, and I went to Sabbath school with them and then came out, and 3 days later, I asked them for help. I said, I'm just trying to quit smoking after reading this book. I said, I need to quit smoking. And I promised God that if I could quit smoking, I could give him the money I'm giving Satan for trying to kill myself. That's about 10% of my income. I said, I promised God, I'll give you that money that I'm giving Satan now to try to kill myself, and that'll be my tithe. And sure enough, I quit smoking just like that.
Wow.
And yes, yes, buddy.
Were you driving for Conway then?
Yes.
What have they said about you taking the Sabbath off?
I got a letter in my truck that shows that they approve of it. I'm one of the only truckers in the whole nation of America that drives over the road because it's a 24/7 job, and I don't know how many others there are, but I'm the only one that I know of that I've ever met who has this
We've had 1 or 2
combination.
other guys stop.
Yeah, I've never met anybody else.
The-
I know we have another a driver that's a 7-day Adventist working for my company, and he doesn't have it. He works, God, before I got the accommodation, God was making my schedule pretty much so I had most Saturdays off anyway, okay? Just by miracle. And another thing he did ever since I've been doing this, before I got the accommodations, when I would stop at a church, I would leave, and I would just have enough time to make it just to the exact minute to get to my next destination, whether it was 2 days away or 4 days away. I would get there just within 1 minute of the time when I had to be there. So God was telling me, hey, I got your back. Don't worry about it. But the book has changed my life, made me realize that before I was ashamed to even admit that I was a Christian. I read the Bible, and I was ashamed to speak out to anybody. And then I saw these Christian t-shirts, like this one I'm wearing. In fact, this is one of the first ones I bought. And I said, when I saw it in a truck stop, I said, now what kind of sissy would ever wear something like that? I'm walking up to my truck. And then I remember this verse I read somewhere. It says, if you're ashamed of me before men, I'll be ashamed of you before my Father. So I turned around, went back in, and bought a couple of these shirts. And I figured I could spread the gospel by every time somebody come up to me and said, hey, I like this shirt you're wearing. I carried a stockpile of them in my truck. I would give them a shirt. And my idea was, okay, if I give you a shirt, and I give you a shirt, and if you guys do the same thing, give away 2 other shirts, just next week, do this every week. Within a year, everybody in the whole world would have a Christian T-shirt. Well, now I'm doing that with the books. I'm doing that with these Great Controversy books. Anybody who wants one, let me know, and I'll get you one with your name in gold leaf on the book. But the deal is, you got to give 2 away. Do they have any volunteers?
I do that. That's a side ministry I have.
Are you a volunteer, Alex?
600 away.
Alex, anybody else want to volunteer? We're looking for SEAL Team 7. We're looking for volunteers. SEAL Team 7, we got a SEAL 4 heads.
One there.
Another volunteer?
I have one, but I'll give them away. You don't have to give them one.
Three volunteers? Somebody can get these names for me? You want to volunteer?
Yeah, I'll give 2. I'll give some away.
Okay, all right. Here's the deal. I will send all you guys who volunteered. I'm gonna send you all books, Great Controversy books, with your name embossed on the front. And welcome to Mission is Possible. That's the name of my ministry.
Mission is possible.
I saw that on your truck.
You got that on the side of the truck too. on the driver's side.
You must be in the right place.
Fabulous.
That's about all I can remember to tell you. But,
Tell us why that book changed your life. What was it about that book that changed your life?
Well, I knew all this information from years ago But I try to tell people and they wouldn't believe me, but now here was a whole group of people that felt exactly the same way that I already felt. That because I knew how to read the Bible and I took most of it literally, except for where it was obvious they were talking in symbolism, okay? So I took most of it literally, and I noticed that there were things that I questioned, like why do we go to church on Sunday? You know, it was plain to me that you're supposed to Sabbath on Saturday, you know? And those things stuck to my head. It must have been from reading the Signs of the Times 40 years ago when I read it, you know, for the few months that I read it. And questions like that never got out of my head. And I always questioned the church that I belonged to, and I got out of it as soon as I could. I became a Baptist for a while. But like I said, I was never a good Christian. I still wanted to be myself and be worldly and all that, and I was a hypocrite. And then when I read this, I realized how I was doing it wrong, and I was doing it right by reading the Bible, but I wasn't repenting of anything. I was all talk and no action, in other words, okay? And then when I read this woke me up to what I was doing wrong and how I could fix it. And this book has just kept me excited ever since.
Amen. Is your wife going to the United Methodist Church?
No, she went with me one time. She didn't like the fact that I wanted to give all my cigarette money to the church. She didn't like that idea. But and we're better off financially than we've ever been before. And when I told her I was going to take Saturdays off from my company, she says, they're going to fire you. I said, well, if they fire me, they fire me. God has something better for me. Well, they didn't fire me, and my last year was my highest paid truck driving year in my whole career. I was always able to make 49,000 something, but this year I made almost 51,000, and I was taking Saturdays off.
Amen.
So I swear by this book. I think we need to get this book out to people.
Amen.
We need to get this book out to the world. This book is the keys to heaven. Amen?
Amen.
Can I hear another amen?
Amen.
All right, any more volunteers?
We feel bad to take him from you because we should be doing the same thing, you know.
Hey, God provides the money just like he provides me with the money to pay my tithe. He provides me the money to spend my tithe on these
He'll take
books.
one, he said, and he'll give two away, right?
All right.
Okay, if somebody can take the names of all the people that volunteered, I'll be happy to send you books. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you
you.
for that testimony.
Praise God.
All right, let's sing another hymn.